Hi guys, welcome to the Southern Highlands. I'm Jeff. I'm the winemaker for Tractorless Vineyard. With compliment, you've got a couple of bottles of wine here, and I'm going to give you a bit of a tasting. The first one we're going to look at is our Pinot Gris. Now we do a Grigio and a Gris. Everyone always asks me what's the difference between the two, so we did make the difference so you can come and taste it in the cellar door. But our Pinot Gris, that's the French way of making it. And this is something special because this is actually our 2017 Pinot Gris, which we don't actually have for sale at the moment in the cellar door because we've moved on to our 18. But 2017 was the first year that I realized we were doing the right thing. And we run our vineyard all biodynamically, and then we run sheep through our vineyard for the entire growing period. And that means we're using the tractor about 60% less, and that's where the name Tractorless comes from. 2017, it was about the fourth year into a conversion of the vineyard into biodynamics. It was a year that fairly warm summer, but then over harvest, we literally had 30 days of rain. It rained almost every day. Probably 90% of the region did not harvest a single grape. And that's because if you're running vineyards, you know, I guess the way we've run them for the last 20 or 30 years, we spray the vineyards for powdery mildew, botrytis, downy mildew. If it rains, it washes off the spray. We've got to spray it again. If you don't get a break in rain, then you can't spray your vineyard. So quite often in those terrible years like 17, we get a lot of botrytis and you lose your grapes. With biodynamics, we're actually using a natural bacteria that we try and strengthen and foster in the vineyard so that it outcompetes the botrytis. And in 2017, it was about 4 years of working on this, and we had this rain and this rain and this rain. We didn't get any botrytis. It was beautiful and clean. And we were one of the few vineyards that picked everything without any problems. And so it was the first year I really, I believed in it, but the first year I really saw the difference of running things biodynamically. So it is a slightly cooler year. So for me, our 2017 is what I would call an Australian Pinot Gris. If you come into our cellar door, we do a more traditional Italian style Grigio and French Gris. But for me, an Australian Gris is kind of a fresher version of the French style. One of the first things you'll see is it's got a little bit of that nice bronzy color, which we expect to see in a Pinot Gris from those slightly higher alcohol levels. This is probably about 12.5 to 13, whereas our more traditional French style is 13 to 14% alcohol. And because of that alcohol, we get a little bit of extra color in there. Pinot Gris is a really interesting white grape. It's one of the only white grapes in the world that when it gets quite ripe, it actually starts turning red. So when our alcohol levels are getting up to 12.5 to 13, the skins in the Pinot Gris berries actually start turning pink. And this is where their name comes from, because you have all these little pink berries in a bunch, and this bunch is hanging out in the vineyard. And from a distance, the bunches actually look grey. And the French word for grey is gris. So Pinot, because it's related to Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier, and Gris because the bunches look grey in the grapevine. So we always get this bronzy color in our Pinot Gris, and our more French style has a little bit darker color. Next thing you'll see, got a few legs there. You know, this clear rim there that is running back down into the wine, we call that the legs. This is everything that's volatile in the wine. So anything in that wine that can evaporate out at room temperature, it evaporates out. It condensates on the glass around here, and then it dribbles back down into the wine. Now, this is predominantly alcohol. And this alcohol actually does something really interesting to this wine. If you give this glass a little bit of a swirl and a smell, you can really see a lot of those fruit characters jumping out of that wine. Now, what's happening is as that alcohol is evaporating out, it's grabbing onto all the aromatics as well and pulling them out as well. So when we smell it, we get hit with them all at once. Then when we taste this wine, soft, big, round, voluptuous, and then it's got this nice little zippiness to the middle. And it's what I call an Australian Gris. So it's a slightly fresher version. You won't get to taste this in our cellar door because we have our traditional Italian version and our traditional French version that we made here. Really interesting to compare the difference, but something special for you guys to taste whilst you're chilling out in your hotel room this evening. So that's our white wine. That should get you going. Great match with a Manchego, or on the menu, they've got a great, actually, you know what I love it with? Anything that's got that nice creamy cheese. So on the menu, they've got this great 3-cheese risotto, and it's fantastic with this Pinot Gris. Sort of resonates that creaminess of the Gris. Another wine for you tonight is our Shiraz. And I had to make a Shiraz. I actually grew up in Canberra, and when I finished school, I didn't know whether I wanted to be a winemaker or an outdoor ed teacher. Don't ask me why those two were my pick, but they were. And my dad said to me, you should probably try and get a job at one of the local wineries over the summer period to see if you actually want to be a winemaker. I thought, it's a pretty good idea, Dad. So I went and got a job at a winery called Clonakilla. And I'm sure you've heard of Clonakilla. They're really famous for their Shiraz, their cool climate Shiraz. And I actually ended up staying there for about 3 years working with Clonakilla. And so Shiraz has been part of my winemaking history for a long, long time. And so I guess it's part of my journey. I had to make a Shiraz because one of the reasons Australia is on the wine world map is because of Shiraz. It's one of the first varieties we actually became really famous for. So I had to make a Shiraz. Now, Shiraz is quite hard in our region. We're quite cold. People don't realize how cold we are. We harvest after Tasmania some years. So we are quite a cold region. If you're visiting us at the moment, I'm inside the cellar door and I've got my jacket on. So it is definitely cold down here. And that's why we make so many great premium boutique wines, because that cool weather really slows the ripening period, which allows us to build more flavor before we hit our sugar ripeness. So it's quite difficult with Shiraz. Our Shiraz vineyards, we work very closely with some growers outside of the region. They actually come from the Hilltops region, and we make it all here. I've worked with them for now over 24 years. Within our region, we have these really interesting sub-regions. So the Canyon Lee region, there's 3 or 4 vineyards out there that specialize was one that specializes in Shiraz, and they're slightly warmer. And so they get that more cool climate, a little bit of peppery sort of character. So definitely worth having a little day trip out that way to check out some of the vineyards out there, because it's quite a different microclimate. So ours comes on the Hilltops. I really didn't want to do anything fancy with this. For me, I really love cool climate Shiraz, and I wanted to keep this true to style. So I've tried old school French techniques. I've tried cutting edge Californian techniques. But what I find is Australian Shiraz just doesn't want to be fiddled with. So probably the most hands-off, easy winemaking we do is with this Shiraz. We destem it. We ferment it with its skins for about 3 weeks, goes into oak for 12 months, and then the bottle. So really straightforward, simple winemaking, but it just works. And the thing I love most about cool climate Shiraz is the structure. So when you have a sip of this, think about where the acid is, and think about where that tannin is. And what you see right down the middle of the tongue, you get this beautiful line of acid and tannin, and that creates structure around the wine. And if you think about a warm climate region, their Shiraz have these big, bold, complex flavors, and they just kind of go, there you go. They give them to you all at once. You're like, whoa, wow, that's amazing, but all at once. As cool climate Shirazes have all this complex, intense flavor, but because of that beautiful structure, they kind of hand you the flavor and hand you the flavor and hand you the flavor rather than throwing it at you all at once. And that's one of the things I really love about this cool climate Shiraz. And look, if you love cool climate Shiraz, this is exactly what you'd expect to get. This is just, I made it that way. I love that style. I didn't want to stuff around with the style. Those 2 wines, great little snippet into our huge range. Like, we're such a little winery. Please head downstairs, enjoy the great food. People don't realize that most of the top restaurants in Sydney get their product from the Southern Highlands. We're like this amazing boutique food and wine bowl. So guys, experience it. Come and visit us. We'd love to see you at the cellar door. We'd love to see you out the vineyard, and have a lovely evening. Relax and enjoy some great wines.